Now recently I did a video on the Yiga army and the soldiers seen in it, and one quite special warrior was seen in it as well, the Yiga Blade Master. These guys are skilled fighters who are similar in a way to samurais, so of course they use a special katana known as the Wind Cleaver. Now aside from looking incredibly cool, they also have one special power. These swords can fire some sort of air slash. However, how does any of this work? Sure, the weapon's description gives some sort of explanation, but does any of that even make sense? Well, let's find out. Now the Wind Cleaver is an item that was only seen in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and is a single-edged, two-handed sword with a base attack rating of 40. Aside from Link, this weapon is only used by the Yiga Blade Masters of the Yiga clan. Now when you use it, the weapon is a lot less powerful compared to the Blade Masters, which could be due to their expertise with it, or something similar to that. Now, as its description implies, the Wind Cleaver sends out sword beam-like blades of wind with every swing that can also be charged up for greater power. And the sword also flies for a short period of time when thrown, traveling a farther distance than any other two-handed weapon. So it's certainly different, especially compared to the version the Sheikah tribe uses, the 8-fold long blade. These swords are rarely seen in Hyrule, and were forged using ancient Sheikah technology. When charged, instead of doing a spin attack, Link will hold it like he's about to draw it from its side sheath and do a quick slash. But when you do this, it doesn't produce an air slash of any kind. Now, when I looked into this blade for that video, I mentioned before that there was one thing that kind of confused me. How does this blade even work? Well, according to the game, when it's wielded by a proficient fighter, its unique shape cleaves the very wind and creates a vacuum. But does this make any sense? Well, not really. Let's be honest here. What does that even mean? I don't know, to be honest, and I think most people don't know either. Sure, it sounds cool, but it makes no sense, and is probably not even possible. So let's look into this weapon to find out how it actually works, or how it could potentially work. Now, one option we have is the mighty ancient Sheikah technology, which allows them to make almost anything. The best example of this is probably the Sheikah Slate, which can do a lot of different things like lift metal objects and even freeze things in time. But that's not all. There are also many examples of high-tech Sheikah weapons and armor, which can be found throughout Hyrule. They can vary in strength and look, ranging from flashy energy blades and shields to more mundane metal weapons. However, those metal weapons are stated to have been crafted with advanced technologies, implying advanced metallurgic techniques. And the ancient soldier gear set is an advanced armor set based on Guardian technology, which you can also obtain in the game. Clearly, they can make a wide range of stuff. So it could be that the Wind Cleaver is also a product of this wonderful, very advanced technology. Now, sadly enough, this doesn't really explain very well how this weapon works, and that's because the Sheikah technology is pretty much impossible to explain. I mean, let's get real here. How does the Sheikah Slate even work? I have no clue. It can do so many things that are impossible according to the laws of physics found in the real world. And we also never get an explanation in the game itself. But luckily enough, we have more options. And I gotta say, some of you lovely people watching came up with some good leads in the comments section. Because after looking through the comments section of the Yiga army video, I saw a couple of good guesses when it comes to the origin of the blade's power. One interesting option that I saw is that the Yiga have the power to control the elements like earth, fire, and wind. We see quite a lot of examples of this. For example, the Yiga Blade Masters, who can make a stone pillar rise, and even Impa can do stuff like this in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. In that completely new game, we can even see Impa use some sort of wind attack in the gameplay footage that Nintendo released. So by the looks of it, they can control the elements to an extent and use it to perform powerful attacks. Now, how they do this is a bit of a mystery, but it seems to be tied to their magical skills, which are actually based on ofudas. In Japanese religion, which is based on Shintoism and Buddhism, these things can do the following. They are a talisman issued by a Shinto shrine on which is written the name of the shrine, or its enshrined kami and stamped with the shrine seal. Such ofuda are often placed on household Shinto altars, containing the kami's essence or power. Or they are a special talisman that can protect you against misfortune, provide safety within the home, and more. And these things are seen a lot when fighting the Yiga in Breath of the Wild, as well as in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity when Impa performs her abilities. So maybe this blade works in a similar way. It could be that they engraved certain magical signs into the grip of the sword below the wrap, or even on the blade portion itself. This gives these swords the power to cut through air and create a wind slash while doing so. Now, we can't be sure if this is the case, but when you look at the powers of the Sheikah and Yiga and what they are based on, it does make a lot of sense. And funny enough, there are stories based on magical wind in Buddhism. There's an incredibly old story known as the kamikaze. And no, not the type you think about. That became a thing because back then the evil Japanese state used this story to sell that odd tactic and make it a heroic thing. Now this word kamikaze literally translates to divine wind. And what they mean by this is that there were two winds or storms that supposedly saved Japan from two Mongol fleets under the Kublai Khan. These fleets attacked Japan in 1274 and again in 1281, and weren't successful thanks to these storms. Supposedly. Now in reality, due to the growth of Zen Buddhism among samurai at the time, these were the first events where the typhoons were described as divine wind, thanks to their amazing timing and incredible force. So there wasn't really a divine intervention or something similar to that, but people did perceive it as such, and so this story was born. And since the Yiga and Sheikah are clearly based on samurais and old Japanese culture, it could be that Nintendo used these events to base the Wind Cleaver on. A weapon using the mighty divine winds from legend to cut down any foe that comes in its way, all in the name of Ganon. Well, this could be the case at least. Because something like this doesn't completely work, and that's mostly because of the 8-fold long blade. Like I mentioned before, these swords were forged using ancient Sheikah technology, which probably happened a long time ago. And that's because the Sheikah gave up all their technology at some point in time. The Sheikah used to be known for their accomplishments in creating amazing technology, which led Hyrule into a time of historical peace 10,000 years prior to the events of Breath of the Wild. However, the royal family and much of Hyrule grew to fear their inventions, and so they left them with a choice. Either they had to become outcasts, or they had to bury their technology and settle down within the land under much more primitive conditions. And as we all know by now, they went with the last option, because we do see them in the game. Now in the end, that old technology was amazing, obviously. However, as far as we know, it wasn't able to create winds like the Wind Cleaver can. So by the looks of it, the Yiga, who didn't get rid of their powers or technology because they were like, screw that, and started their own little fan club, created a new technique that allowed them to make such a weapon. The old Sheikah weapons from 10,000 years ago weren't able to do it after all, so it must be a more modern weapon. Well, I think that's the case at least. It just seems like the Yiga created this weapon all by themselves because the similar Sheikah blade wasn't able to perform any of the same tricks. In 10,000 years, you can invent quite a lot of things. Just look at how humans developed in such a time period. It's insane. So I bet they could easily improve a weapon like the 8-fold long blade in such a time period, transforming it into the Wind Cleaver. And by the looks of it, they found a new way to shape the blade so it can shoot wind slashes at their enemies. Now, as far as I can see, they either achieved it with a special forging technique that doesn't exist in real life and isn't explained either. It could also be that they used Ofuda magic, or they used some sort of material with special properties that allowed it to manipulate wind, creating those air slashes. Now, while the first explanation I just mentioned is a bit vague and can't really be explained by me because I simply don't have the info about any Sheikah or Yiga forging techniques, and I already explained the Ofuda magic option, the third one I mentioned can be explained to an extent. In the game, there are certain weapons known as the elemental blades. These ones are quite special because they can freeze, electrify, or set an enemy on fire. In order for these blades to have these powers, special forging techniques were used, and also gemstones like sapphires who contain the essence of elements within them. So it could be that the Yiga also used a special gemstone like this in their forging techniques. And thanks to that, the blade can manipulate the air around it to create a powerful air slash. Well, this is an option at least, and in my opinion quite a good one compared to all the others we have discussed in this video. The Wind Cleaver even has a similar glow to all the other elemental weapons. Now, how they ended up achieving this will probably remain a mystery forever. This is just a theory video after all. But in my opinion, it seems like it was created by either using the mighty technology they mastered and elemental stones, or their Buddhist magic. Either of the two would probably do the job. But one thing is certain, the explanation in the description is certainly not the whole story, and still kind of confuses me. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you all want, I can do more videos like this.